Three, two, one. All right, we're live. Welcome to Corner Comics. This is your weekly comic book reading club. We've got 6 issues we're going to run down, and I'm joined by Russ this week. No Emmanuel, but we've got Russ. How are you doing this week, sir?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks for asking, and I'm looking forward to this.
So every week we pick a few issues to run down. Hopefully they're good issues and can be some stuff that will give us some things to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and run down the list right now. Instead of doing the 2 issues each, because there's only 2 of us this week, we've done 3 issues each. The 3 issues that I've chosen: Scrimshaw #1, Batman Beyond, I believe this is volume 6, issue number 37, and Justice League Dark, volume 2, issue number 14. Russ, you've got 3 issues. You want to run down your list?
Yep, I have Superman, volume 5, number 16, Savage Avengers, number 1. I'm looking at the director's cut, and because I think there are like 4 issues in right now, and something new for me called Ether, the Disappearance of Violet Bell, which is neither Marvel nor DC nor any of the top, whatever the big dogs are.
It's Dark Horse though, which
Yeah.
I was surprised by.
Do you think Dark Horse number 4? Where do you put Dark Horse?
I feel like Dark Horse used to be 3.
Yeah.
Even after Image blew up in the early 90s. I still felt like Dark Horse was like the 3rd big publisher. These days, maybe 5th or 6th.
Oh, wow.
I could put Boom and Dynamite and IDW ahead of them even.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, it's the last on the list. We could tackle that one first if you want to, because I was actually really pleasantly surprised by that issue.
I was too. It was something I just thought I'd random try, but let's get into it.
Right.
This is the first issue ever, so I really don't have a lot of background here. But the art of it was interesting enough for me to take a look. And again, it wasn't something I would normally read. And for me, it showed up after having read it, going through it. It showed up like something that could take place in the Samurai Jack universe. Like if there was a comic that was adjacent to Samurai Jack, I think, and especially this is rife with the opportunity of an animated series. I think it just fits well. I think Jimmy Tartarovsky should get off Primal and do this, but Primal's good too. So the story is, to the best of my understanding, about some guy who used to be amazing, who's off, I don't know, on maybe a 500-year sabbatical or whatever, not doing much, and gets called back into the game by, and I think the protagonist, I feel like he's more of a, I want to say, wandering Doctor Strange, but maybe not, maybe Doctor Occult type of guy, because you don't get the full scope of what he's capable of. But anyway, he's brought back into the game by something from his past.
Yes. So apparently there are other Ether books. Did you know this, or is this the first one that you've ever seen?
This is the first one I've ever seen, but now I have to go deeper.
Yeah. So when you sent it to me, I looked it up because I had never heard of this before, and I was looking. I was like, oh shit! There's 2 other volumes. Russ has probably got the full backstory. Because I'm like, what the hell is going on with these 6 or 7 different gods that they've got? Why is he in the mountains? It is really interesting. I love the art. It feels like a cartoon, but it's a lot more detailed than you would expect. I do get Samurai Jack vibes, but I also get specifically when he first starts talking about the gods. Ren and Stimpy vibe.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. That's a good choice, but in a good way, in a 100% good way. But yes, I do like that they move through that stuff quickly. Like they gave you a lot of depth. There's a lot of story here in this one book.
Yeah.
but you don't in a lot of books that would give you so much, you would get bogged down. But this sort of tells it gets you through it, and sort of here's something interesting. But I'm keep moving. I don't have time for you to get stuck on it. Here's something interesting, but I'm keep moving. I don't have time for you to get stuck on it. And so all of that made me sort of want to know more about the world.
Yeah.
Going through it.
I like the color palette too. Uh,
Agreed.
the way that it has like these various monochrome different sections.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Are you familiar with Matt Kind or Kint? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Oh, only his name. I didn't look into anything he's ever done, but now I guess I have to because you brought it up. So give me something. Do you know anything he's done that you really like?
Yeah, so he did Divinity for Valiant Comics, and
Oh,
I think that was 2014 or 15, and it's the story of a Russian cosmonaut that um, becomes godlike, I guess. Um,
oh, he did Sweet Tooth,
I didn't know he did Sweet Tooth. Okay.
right? That was see Frankenstein, Agent of Shade. That was okay. He did some Suicide Squad for DC and Vertigo. He worked. Oh man, Unity for Valiant.
Oh the Avengers analog.
Yeah, Ryan, the Valiant, Divinity, Ninjak,
Yeah.
Exo Man of War. Is he writing everything for Valiant? Did they leave anything? So yeah, he's got a nice. So we know he can tell stories. We
Right.
know he can tell stories outside, inside, and outside of the big two universes. In fact, the truth is, I don't see any Marvel,
No.
but maybe an occasional thing. It's like he did a Marvel Knights and a Wolverine and X Men. But he has a lot more with DC and Vertigo.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Valiant. Valiant now is actually a pretty good publisher, I feel like,
yes, and then you saw the trailer or have you seen the trailer
for
for
Bloodshot.
Bloodshot?
I have not seen the trailer yet. I know Vin Diesel's in it. I know this is a big deal for them.
Okay, I won't spoil it. I will talk after you see it. Maybe we'll talk next time. But their trailer is out,
Okay.
and I've been keeping track because I want their universe to be successful because I like a lot of their stories and a lot of their books. And you know what? I feel like we're getting off the tangent of the actual book we're talking about.
This is true.
Yeah.
Um,
So go ahead.
I don't really have a whole lot to say. I mean, it's the beginning of a story, and it seems like it's going to be this epic journey because it starts with him, going to this massacre that's happened, and
Yeah, yeah.
then they have to try and figure out like where to go next after he fights off this bug creature that comes down from the ceiling, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, so uh, another thing I liked is when I went back through it, there's so many details in the artwork that I missed the first time, right? There's so much here just visually, like it really is a feast, right? Like I'm already interested in the story and the wording, but I could go back to this and look at mountains and look at idols and look at different things that are in the universe. Uh, uh, Even the wrinkles on people's faces and things like that that didn't occur to me in my first walkthrough.
Right, right.
So I think this is a great book on its own. Not a lot of issue number ones necessarily can hold you and say you have to read the next one. I think this does that.
I agree. It does enough that I'm interested to see what happens.
There you go.
So
So we both give this a thumbs up then.
yeah, I'd say this is a buy for sure.
Okay.
Let's jump into my first one then, because I feel like this is very similar. Scrimshaw issue number 1.
Go ahead. Sell it. Give me something.
This is a post-apocalyptic comic book, but it's done in the style of Cowboy Bebop meets Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay.
This is like a super indie comic. I don't think you can even buy this physical anymore unless the Kickstarter is still going on. So the guy Eric Borden that came up with the this comic, he was doing a Kickstarter for the next 4 issues, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if you pledge to that, you get the full run of all of it, like a certain tier. It's like $30. You get like all 12 issues or something. Um,
Okay. This is a lot for, I don't, if this was just one issue, that's a lot of reading. Not in a bad way, just there's a lot for your money, is what I mean.
yeah. Well, it sets up the world and it sets up the characters. I'm blown away by the artwork. I really like how it's still comic booky, but it's kind of abstract.
I'm the opposite.
Okay, you didn't like it at all.
I I found the artwork often distracting and take me out of the story. The story was interesting. Like I wanted to know more, but often, there's so many extra lines on the face that don't do anything.
Right.
I'm like, why are they there? They're not providing character. You could have used 50% of these 100 lines and still gotten the same. And I'm not trying to make light of people's view of artwork or anything like that. There were parts where everybody is drawn in a proportion, and all of a sudden, in one panel, some guy is the lower part of his body is shorter than everything else. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
it definitely has. He takes some liberties.
so when that happened, I often found it distracting. Uh, uh, Not the but the story I found interesting. But and there were parts sometimes because I like to take a second pass and look at the artwork, and sometimes I was like, I don't even know what this thing over here in the left corner of the panel is. Like, what is this? And then I went to look because I went farther. I went to look at this artist has a page somewhere. Let
Right.
me go look at his stuff.
Yeah.
And I went and looked at his stuff, and some of his stuff was so like, what is this? What are you even drawing? I'm not saying there's not talent. This is not to say that he didn't plan this and execute, but there's
Right.
a lot of it. Like, if it's on the panel, if I'm going to look at it, give me something to look at. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It can be stark, but don't take the time to draw something that I'm never going to know what it is. And I felt a lot of that happen. And whenever I would get to a panel like that, I was out of the story trying to like deal with that.
Okay. All
Uh,
right.
uh, but the story, the characters were interesting. Uh, uh, as far as and the setup was interesting, and I did want to know more. Uh, but you know, they didn't give you too much. They gave you just enough to say, here, there's more in this world. You can check it out. The dialogue was interesting enough for me to follow it, no problem. Uh, and I would like to know more about the world. And then a panel with him, like, oh shit. Like, come on, stop scribbling, man. Give me something here. And I felt like, but that is not to be said that the artwork did not convey something. I understand what the characters were up to visually.
Right.
I just didn't understand what was happening over here in the upper right corner of this panel, but I knew what this panel was about. So that's sort of where I sit on the artwork.
Okay.
If this was like say a book, I'd read this book. Though. I mean, not a comic book, but like
Oh, like a novel or something.
like a novel. This comes off to me like a novel worth listening to
All right.
or reading. But the art for me, just like and I don't want to make light of the person's effort because I do understand what's happening. It is not a bad book by any means. It's just I found it distracting.
That's fair. I guess the one thing that I will mention, so in this post-apocalyptic setting, instead of it being zombies or a meteor or nuclear fallout, the seas have risen, right? So global warming
Yeah,
has run amok, and basically the
yeah, I
planet,
like it.
and it's the deluge, the quote unquote deluge, right? The one thing that I do not like about this is there are so many characters from islands. How the fuck do those islands even still exist?
Yes.
Did you notice
Right.
that?
Everybody's got to jump in a boat, like no problem. Everybody's got a boat
Yeah.
and a shore. Like, what, did anything happen to the world where you live? Or was it just in America with the red and blue? Like, I like that little part where they were like the
Right.
red blue war in America. Was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's a real thing. I felt like this was sort of a story that could happen in a heavy metal magazine that Ralph Bakshi drew.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right? Like, if this story, it was in a heavy metal magazine, that's where it would belong. Like, I would, if I saw it there, I would think this is exactly where, what it was designed to do. So I like that part of it. I agree it's highly stylized. Uh, and I like the story.
I haven't actually got through and read any of the other ones, so I'll check it out and I'll see. I'm curious to see if the art has evolved over the different story arcs, because they're not doing it in a traditional publisher sense where, like, okay, we're gonna let you go for 12 issues and then you've got so many more issues. They're doing like 4 issues. Here's a story arc. This is one book. 4 issues. Here's a story arc. This is one book. Type of deal. So I'm curious if in between, like after the first 4 issues, then they took like a year off, then they did another 4 issues. I wonder if it's changed at all. And
Okay.
yeah. All right. Well, since we're going back and forth, you want to pick one of your other books?
Okay, I'm going to go with Savage Avengers #1, the director's cut. It's a must read. The story here is that after who are all the evil as people on the World Tree in the Asgard universe? Not Asgard itself, but all the elves. Anyway, everyone that is not part of Asgard that's connected to the World Tree has come under Malekith to basically take over the Earth as their new sort of staging ground or whatever, right?
Okay.
So Malekith has united everybody that's ever fought Thor, every people that has ever fought Asgard, and that story happened before this. This is a fallout of that. So of course,
Yeah.
the heroes have won. Thor was restored, and all of that happened before this started. And Punisher was out there taking down giants because Punisher, anyone can be punished, right? And so this story starts because Punisher also had his own series in that. This story starts with a whole bunch of orphans whose parents were killed by these giants, ice giants, and everything else, and they that gets brought up to the Punisher. The Punisher meets these kids, and they draw pictures of the people that killed their parents. And the Punisher's heart breaks, and he's going to go kill them all. And so he steals Thor's goat, the flying goat, and he straps it to the front of his battle van like
Right.
like Santa Claus, and he flies into Asgard to kill every friggin' frost giant or every demon who ever did anything to any of these kids. And on his way, he meets an interesting group of individuals, powered and not powered, that are also taken into his goal, his quest, and help him along the way. And Punisher is the greatest when he's murdering, right? There's nobody greater at murdering. I think Deadpool needs to take Punisher lessons because Punisher is just amazing at it. He's so bloodthirsty. He's so straight for the jugular, and he's good. He can lead troops and lead men and do it himself. It doesn't matter if Superman came up, Punisher would come at him with a kryptonite sword to say, "Let's dance."
Yeah.
That's Punisher. So this is Savage Avengers. Punisher is savage here, and everybody that comes in here is savage. This is just fun to behold. I found that the artwork to me was great, easy to get into, no distractions. The story was interesting. Well, let me see. The art wasn't the best art ever.
I like how it looks. It has like a painting quality to it.
Yeah, but this is actually Savage Avengers. So you can't have Savage Avengers without Conan because the Savage sort of Conan, right?
Yeah.
So hold on, because I know I get off of it. So this is people Avengers. Sometimes I just want Avengers to go out and murdering folks, right? I'm tired of all this, PG-13. Let's have Wolverine on the Avengers, and let him pop his claws, but nobody ever really gets stabbed, right? I'm
Right.
tired of that. I want people to die, right? And so in Savage Avengers, people die. You have Punisher in this, you have Conan, and just alone Punisher and Conan team up. Who lives on the other side of that? Who could actually survive that, right? And then you bring Wolverine from Pabst. There's a part in there, right? And I know that because I heard something in your other podcast where you talked about you were having some Pabst, and then Wolverine was like, what's your last name or whatever? Or Conan was like, I'm a Pabst. I was like, oh hell.
Yeah.
So it's funny because what happens when savage people that you love get together? First, they got to beat each other up because you're savage. You got to prove that you're even worthy of my respect. I love
Right.
all the death. I love that this is all about killing and stealing life force and all of that. And damn it, I've been missing savageness for a long time. I need this. And this is Savage Avengers #1. I think they're into #4 now. Every issue is a delight. I consider it a must read. I think it'll be even better once it's in graphic novel form. But each issue does bring something in it, even a little laugh, a little, I really want to see this. And you should too. What do you think?
All right. So artwork I really like. Like I mentioned, I like the painterly quality to it. It feels
Mm-hmm.
almost like a digital painting.
Yeah,
I didn't. So this is a book that takes place after the War of the Realms. It's
I
like
believe so.
directly from
Because
that.
I believe it's after the War of the Realms, but I don't know. I kind of got off on a tangent, so it may not be directly from that. But I believe it's after.
Okay, because I didn't get that, and I haven't read War of the Realms. I wasn't into that story arc.
That's okay. You don't have to have read it you're not missing anything.
No, but it is very confusing. It's like
Yes.
because it's like, oh, Conan's just murdering people, and then Wolverine comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't do that good of a job setting up the team for the first
Okay.
issue, but it's entertaining enough that, like, okay, if you like these characters that are on the cover, and you like the characters in the pages,
Hmm.
I feel like it's enough to carry you through and get you into the next issue. And there's some
So
cool.
how familiar? I'm sorry to interrupt. How familiar are you with the Conan lore? Like the people he fought, his rogues gallery.
So, all right, not that familiar, but the first ever comic that I ever owned was a Conan book. And it was given to me
Okay.
by a friend, and it was, folded over and like stapled on top because it had been read so many times. Um, and I remember very distinctly like how much chaos was on those pages. Um, I don't know. This is kind of a nod to that. I feel like with the way that they did it, but not
Yeah,
overwhelming.
I'm going to agree with you in that it's not all clear here as far as what's the real motivation, what brings them all together.
Yeah,
And I have read the others. Uh, uh, they could have done a better job of that. But uh, remember, there's no Captain America leading these people. They're just savage people leading other savage people. So when you think of it that way, how much understanding do they ever have themselves of what's really going on? Right?
yeah,
Wolverine, you know what I'm saying? If you look at these type of characters, they don't care if they understand or not. They just pick somebody to kill and get at it. Right? Right? Because if you think that's what when you put Conan in something, is Conan really understanding cosmic beings? Does he care?
no,
No. Give him a good sword and let's do it. Wolverine might know some stuff, but he gets savage all the time. So I kind of feel like he's at his best. I think that these are characters that are normally not led by anyone else well, and so they are just being themselves. And this is chaos, and these are chaos warriors, and so they'll work it out before they get to the end. And if somebody gets killed along the way that shouldn't die, they're mourning them and pour some paps over their grave, but they're going to get to it. So I'm thinking it's savage. You don't get to know all of that, and maybe that doesn't matter. Just a thought.
Okay. The only other issue that I had with it then was the fact that it's in the Savage Land, but Wolverine's powers, his healing factor, is in effect because there's a point in this book where Conan straight up stabs him through the heart.
Yeah.
And he gets back up. But
Yeah.
I thought that the mutant powers were limited in the Savage Land.
But there's magic there. So who knows? And who knows he can't, happen faster? Who knows they're not? And what year is it even?
I don't. There's no indication of what.
Yeah,
what year this
and,
is.
And they don't care either. Would Wolverine really care what year it is, or would he just drink a beer and kill something to eat? So this could take place 50 years ago, and everyone could have fallen through a time doorway. I'm airing, and everything you say is legitimate and it makes sense. And I'm just saying this is a book of chaos, and these are savage warriors, and they'll work it out as they go along. Somebody smart will show up.
Yeah, I would say this is a good trade read.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
All right. Next for you.
My next issue, since we're going with teams that are not the normal teams, I'm gonna go with Justice League Dark. This is Volume 2, Issue 14. Have you been reading Justice League Dark at all?
I started the first few issues of the series, and then I sort of fell off.
Okay.
Once I realized that Wonder Woman, you got to think about it. Wonder Woman is in theory a magical being, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, Wonder Woman is a lot more than just a strong woman who can fight. There's something magical about. She's no longer made of clay anymore. So they've taken that out of her, thing. So she's human. She's raised from a mother and a father, though the father is a god. I just expect there's some magic in there always anyway, because, the magic lasso of truth,
right,
and the invisible plane, which defies all technology. So that's not, and when you look at that group, you need somebody shiny to lead them, because pretty much all of them are kind of despicable, except for maybe Zatanna.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Zatanna, I don't believe is strong enough to lead them. Right. Because all you have to do is, what's the guy who smokes the cigarettes? Constantine. Who'll just run all over her, but you can't run all over Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Right. Constantine, I can see Wonder Woman slapping a cigarette out of his mouth, right? Or if she wanted to, right? So you can't, I'm thinking these books, you need a leader strong enough to do it, and you need someone shiny, and there is nobody else for Wonder
Woman. Right. So
that being said, go ahead.
I was going to say the only reason that I even picked this up, because I picked up the newest issue, which is in the middle of this story arc. It's the third issue. It's the third part in this Witching War story arc. So I had to go back a couple issues to figure out what was going on, and that's why I went with 14 instead of issue 16. But you're always on my shit about DC animation, so I watched Justice League Dark, having no idea what the hell it was even about, and I was like, "This is pretty cool. I'm gonna check out the comic." So this is the result of that, basically.
Okay.
I'm kind of confused on some of the stuff because I don't really follow DC all that much. I don't know. I like the team composition. I like Constantine. He's kind of a badass. I like Zatanna. She's essentially a female Doctor Strange. But yeah, like there's characters in here that is not they're not in the animated movie. Like Man Bat. When the hell did he join the team? I'm curious about that. Wonder Woman seems to have taken on the same role that Batman had in the cartoon.
Yeah, I see that.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of neutral on it. I just picked it up because it was something different and not something that I would have normally read just based on the title or somebody giving me a description.
Yeah,
It took watching the cartoon first to be like, oh, that's a really cool concept. Let me check that out.
I would say that outside of say Wonder Woman, Constantine, and Zatanna, there's everyone else is B-level characters. Some of them possibly C-level characters. Like Man Bat is always going to be B-level at best,
Right.
right? And Man Bat started when this series started, and he's just a guy who turns to a bat. So he's brought in there just by his own creep factor. He's not really knowledgeable about magic or anything else because he's even becoming Man Bat is not a magical issue.
Right.
It's just that we just need somebody creepy in there. But Detective Chimp is, sort of into the magic thing, also doesn't do any magic at all himself, but he's supposed to be an even better detective than the Dark Knight, believe it or not.
Okay. All right.
Right? So this is all lore, right? So I like all the, I like, it's just like Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad. You bring in all these B-level characters, put them all on the table, and say, let's play. But we need somebody recognizable to lead them. We got your Wonder Woman, and if you go back to the beginning issues of this series, which is not that far away because
No.
we're only on issue number 14, you'll sort of see what sets it up and brings them together. They brought in Blue Devil as part of the story, and I always liked Blue Devil ever since he was just a regular stunt man who put on a Blue Devil suit long before he became an actual demon.
Okay.
So I've always been a fan of that. So I like all the toys, but it's not. I think this story is a better part of a graphic novel. There's a lot here. There's a lot here that
Yeah.
you need context with. And if you haven't been reading, it's not a standalone issue by any means. And truth is, well, it wasn't a bad book. I wasn't excited by it. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
There's nothing negative about it. I don't really point to like, oh, this wasn't good here, this wasn't good here. It's a serviceable book. It looks, easy to follow, easy to read, and you can just sort of follow along. If it's an animated series, that's what I would do, right? I just follow along and see where it goes. I don't
Yeah.
know if I would have paid, what's the price for this book, 350 or whatever. What
Yeah,
is
I
the
think
price
so.
now? Then $4. I wouldn't say for me, but I'm down on the price of comics anyway. I don't feel like this is worth $4 by itself, but I think the graphic novel at like $12 or whatever the number is for graphic novels these days uh, would this would work as a graphic novel. I think this is a graphic novel tale. I
Okay.
really was disappointed with the cover too. It just wasn't. It was like it's just not clear. It's just not doesn't pop. You get people to do cover art to be like, damn, I got to see what's in this book, right? This
Right.
didn't do. This didn't do that.
All
That
right.
kind of disappointing.
That's fair. I don't know. I feel like I the opening dialogue kind of got me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the moon and this and that, and it's supposed to be a magical series. So that got me into it. I'm gonna keep reading it. I don't know that I'll go
Okay.
back because that's kind of hard. To read 13 other issues. But I think next week or whenever the next issue comes out, I'll pick it up. I'll see
Okay.
where this is at. I like the artwork. I think the artwork is very traditional for a comic book, and there's a lot.
Agreed.
There's a lot
It
going
made
on.
it made me think that this was like a '90s book.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like a '90s book would look just like this, and the story would kind of. I feel like this is a '90s DC book.
right.
Maybe some characters have changed because of the world has changed, but I don't think there's anything that says that would make this be a different book 20 years ago than it
No,
would be now.
yeah, and that's appealing for me. That's
Hmm.
a good thing from where I'm standing.
Okay.
So, but moving on, what is
Uh,
your final issue? Unless you have any other final thoughts on this one.
No, no, I'm good. My final issue is Superman, Volume 5, number 16. It is the reunion of the Super Sons. And I'm going to tell you, as an old DC head that read books even before I was born, uh, I used to love those old comics where the son of Batman or the son of Superman would be arguing and fighting over stuff. This was a world, I don't know, so if it was Elseworlds, but the son of Batman and son of Superman were grown, still sons of their fathers who were out there doing their things, and they was always arguing over whether humans were evil or good, and they would do their thing. And I used to read that way back when, and I loved it. So the idea of the Super Sons is amazing. In addition to that, both these characters have been amazing. Who doesn't love, hate Damian Wayne? Right? You can't just like be indifferent to Damian Wayne. You gotta don't like him, or you gotta you have to choose. And the son of Superman, Jonathan Kent, is very much his father's son.
Okay.
I don't. There's hardly any Lois in there at all. This is Superman Junior, if there ever was one.
Right.
So all pie in the sky and everything else. So there's been a couple of Super Sun series in the last couple of years or so, and during those series, Damian was older by 1 year, and Damian was a member of Teen Titans, and he wouldn't let Superman Junior joined because Superman was Junior was 12 and not a teenager, and therefore they wouldn't allow him to join the Titans,
Okay.
even though he got powers better than most of them and everything, right? But then they would get off and when Damien would get in trouble, he would call. They really became good friends. They really started off not liking each other, but really, and their fathers are, the world's finest, right?
Right.
But they really grew together. They really grew to understand. Like any good friends, they talk shit about each other, but they can turn their back on each other and trust in each other's abilities to get through. It's the greatest friendship ever. And if you haven't read those Super Sons series, there's a couple of them. I suggest you do. But since then, those series are over, and Superman Junior. I just like calling him that. Superman Jr. went on a sabbatical with his father, Jor-El, who apparently is still alive, and went away and then got lost in time and parallel universes. And when he came back, he was almost grown.
Right.
Even though it'd only been a few weeks with his parents. The first thing everybody say, must be red kryptonite. There's no way he can be that old. And he's like, Dad, don't freak out. It is me. All of that. And so he tells everybody, and he has a great arc moving into becoming a member of the Legion of Superheroes, the new version of them. But he had to go back and see Damian.
Right.
And this is their meeting after he's now older, how they react. And Brian Michael Bendis. Come on, Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. I figured you'd just run through the synopsis and then.
Yeah. Brian Michael Bendis, there's a lot to love. There's just fun here. You want to see this. You want to see this interaction between these two characters. It's just great to watch. Like, can't there be an animated series of the Super Sons? Forget all this Young Justice stuff, and let's just do the Super Sons all day long. And that's how it made me feel. Go ahead. What's your thoughts?
I like the overall story and the dialogue. The artwork kind of throws me off, just at how bubbly it is.
Got it.
I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but it feels very rigid and plastic to me.
Okay.
I'm not totally opposed to it. I do like how stylized it is, and it is clean. It's it's well done in the style that they did do it.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have any connection to the backstory of what's going on, so I didn't know. Like Superman Junior is talking about like I'm back, and like that keeps repeating throughout the issue, and I'm just like, okay, I don't. There's no. I didn't have any context for that, but having you describe it makes a lot more sense. I'm interested to check out the Legion of Superheroes. I had a roommate years ago, and he was not into any comics except for the Legion of Superheroes because his uncle had a box full of them and had like an entire run, and so those are the only comics that he ever read growing up. So that was what he was into, and I was like, that's a weird team to like, but okay. And so,
did you ever watch the animated series of the Legion of Superheroes? They did 2 seasons.
When did it come out?
Now you're gonna make me use the internet.
But with this issue specifically, I thought it was interesting that it was a Superman book focusing on Damian Wayne and Jonathan Kent. And you only see Superman in like 3 panels, which was
Yeah, right. Which is great because here's my thought: at what point does Superman Junior become Superman? How old does he have to be? He can't be Superboy at 30. You
right,
know what I mean?
right.
So how does that ultimately work out? Uh, Legion of Superheroes came out 2006 through 2008,
I
two
didn't
seasons.
I didn't even know that that was a thing. So no, I haven't seen it.
Okay,
No.
so I would say put it on your watch list.
All right.
Uh, it's probably in the DC streaming service. It's not the best art that I would like, but the characters are interesting, and if you already know the characters, it's worth taking a look at.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, it's still DC animation, so how often is DC bad animation bad?
Yeah. It's always been good. I'm trying to think. So for this issue in particular, I think that it benefits from Bendis being the writer.
Agreed.
It's a good single issue. So while I'm not the biggest fan of the art, I do like that you have this conversation happening between two really good friends, and they're saving the world time and again. And it's the conversation is, I don't know. It's interesting that the juxtaposition of old friends catching up and how nonchalantly they're saving humans, saving the earth. So
Yeah.
that was really cool, and I like that. Um, Given that it's a single issue, I don't know that I'd continue reading the current run of Superman unless I don't know. There's other stuff like this. I don't know. Is Bendis going to continue writing it?
There,
Do we know?
there is more backstory that you would benefit from previous issues. Do you want to know how Damien got aged up? What happened to him in the years of his life he was gone? That will follow there. What happened when he got back? How the Legion of Superheroes even got involved has something to do with him specifically. So if you want to know more about him, this incarnation of Superboy, I have an aside here, by the way. You know, there's two Superboys, right?
No, I didn't know that.
You know who Connor Kent is?
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Young Justice, the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor.
Right.
He's still around in the DC universe.
Okay.
And we have this one who's the actual son of Clark Kent,
Okay.
right? So sooner or later, one of them can't be Superboy anymore.
Right.
So the real question is, what do you name the other dude?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right?
I was racking my brain thinking about the death of Superman and all of the Supermen that they had after that, and I was trying to think of the different names.
Steel Superman, Space Superman. I don't know. I remember all of them. There was a Cyborg Superman. There was Steel. There was Superboy slash Man, and there
Yeah.
was the Eradicator,
Yeah, the dude that had like the
the visor,
goggles and yeah.
who was, I guess, almost a form of Brainiac or whatever in a Kryptonian body or something like that.
Yes, yeah, something weird.
Mhm.
I thought he was the coolest looking out of all those, but
I will agree. Now, have you seen? They remade those movies. Which is also on the DC streaming service. They remade those movies. There's a new Death of Superman movie, and then a Rise of the Superman animated movie that takes place right after, which shows Superman. So it shows all the different Superman
okay,
that we just, including the Superboy, and as sort of two bookends. So
okay,
they redid that, and you've already paid for DC streaming service. You might as well watch it and check it out.
all right. Any final thoughts on this current issue?
No, it was fun. And I'm going to once say, I also agree with you. I'm not a fan of the art. Uh,
Okay,
while it is very clear and easy and not distracting necessarily to me, not as much as for you. They made Damien too short, seemed like he was 3 feet tall.
yeah,
There's a lot of things that but it didn't for me. It didn't take away from the story. Maybe it's the dialogue alone. Maybe it's the look on their faces because I still like the look on their faces. The the whatever is conveyed through the looks on their faces.
Yeah, there was enough expression for
Yeah.
sure.
Uh, so I enjoyed it. And Brian Michael Bendis keeps showing up in my picks. I don't know what he's doing. I'm gonna have to find another one for next time.
Yeah. All right. My final book, uh, Batman Beyond, Volume 6, Issue 37. So this is the most recent Batman Beyond book. This was actually sold out at my local comic shop, which I thought was crazy. But the reason that it was sold out, the appearance of a new Batwoman. We don't know who this Batwoman is. So I haven't really been following the current story arc. From what I understand, Terry McGinnis has amnesia and he's running around and doesn't realize that he is Batman. And so he's been gone. I don't know for how long. But his little brother is in the Batcave, and he thinks that Terry's returned because the suit is gone. Turns out somebody else has gotten into the Batcave, stolen the Batsuit, and is playing Batman, and it's a woman. So
Yeah, it pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I mean that sums it up. It's art is Sean Chen. I don't know that I've ever seen his work before. It feels kind of like the cartoon to me, so I like that. Story, Dan Jurgens. Not familiar with his work before.
Well, I gotta say, Dan Jurgens been in the game forever.
Okay, well, not so. There's nothing that comes to mind immediately that he's done. Do you know of anything in particular that he might be known for?
Known for Booster Gold, Batman and Harley Quinn 2017, and Batman Brave and the Bold 2008. Dan Jurgens is an OG.
Okay, DC though.
Only to say, yeah, he's a DC OG.
Okay,
and anything he's best known for creating Booster Gold.
All right. Okay.
And he worked on the Death of Superman storyline, so very much a DC guy.
Nice.
My first look at this series makes me feel like it's another one that looks like it was drawn in the 90s. Not necessarily in a bad way.
Right.
But, and everything is serviceable. Everything is clear, easy to see. There's not extra lines. And the whole Batman as a mystery is good here too. But it really does remind me, when you think of things like Booster Gold and all that, and if you imagine if this was written back then it would fit. By the way, I don't know if you know, but Terry McGinnis' little brother is Robin in this universe now.
No, I didn't know that.
So I don't. That happened, and which is interesting because we know that Terry McGinnis is actually the son of Batman,
right?
But his little brother is not.
Okay.
So that's interesting, and it's not clear who could be Batwoman, which I like because you would just guess Barbara Gordon, but Barbara Gordon is Commissioner Gordon now in this universe.
Right.
So she's too old. So I'm thinking, does Barbara have a daughter that we didn't know about until now? Because we know Batman can't have any children because he's too busy fighting for justice to have children on purpose. Or it could be kid of Dick Grayson or a kid of Jason Todd. It could be a daughter of any, because there's 72 Robins now, so right. It could be the daughter. It could be the daughter of any Robin, and we could work with that. Go ahead.
There's one panel towards the end after it's revealed that the person wearing the bat suit is a woman. Where what is Terry McGinnis' brother's name? Does it say it anywhere in this issue?
No, but they said we both know who Batwoman is, so it's Robin and old Batman are saying, and old Batman says Barbara Gordon.
But yeah,
and Robin says Melanie Walker. Now, I don't know who Melanie Walker is.
All right. So the cards, the playing cards.
Oh,
that team, it's 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 10. And I would accept that as a reality in that universe. That works for me.
yeah.
You can't be Barbara Gordon because Barbara Gordon ain't got that shape no more.
No, she's too
It's
old.
just be, yeah, so it can't be Barbara.
That's
Um,
that's the first thing that popped into my head when I read that
yeah.
panel. I was like, Barbara Gordon, come on, Bruce. She's too old.
But remember, Batman is old too, so maybe he's not all there right now.
Right, right.
Um, so Melanie Walker is a good choice. I think if you really want to mess with my emotions, though, you make it Jason Todd's daughter that he didn't know he had because he was out there running the streets.
Is there any descendant of Kate Kane or Catherine Kane?
Ooh, it didn't even occur to me because when Batman Beyond was created, there wasn't a Kathy Kane really in the universe, so that could easily happen.
Yeah, I
But then
mean,
again,
she
go
she
ahead.
did she did exist in the was it the mid '70s?
A different one,
Yeah,
where they had a basically a female Batman and a female Robin. I forgot what her name was.
yeah. I
Uh,
don't remember either, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, post New Fifty Two though, right?
Flamebird. It was Flamebird
Flavor.
because the history of Nightwing is actually a Superman history, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, so before Dick Grayson was ever became Nightwing, uh, Superman used to hang out with Jimmy Olsen, and they had the Bottle City of Kandor, right? And so Jimmy Olsen would hang out with Superman when they would go visit Kandor.
Right.
But in Kandor, Superman didn't have any powers.
Okay.
So they decided to be crime fighters based on their own historical crime fighters that exist in the past called Nightwing and Flamebird. And so Superman became Nightwing, which was the Batman-ish character, and
Okay.
Flamebird was the Robin-ish character. So when even if you look at the history of Teen Titans, where Dick Grayson explains why he chose Nightwing, it's because says he was also raised by Superman, and that had some saying it. So and there has been a Kryptonian Nightwing that's come into the universe a few times. Also,
Okay.
Zod's son was Nightwing for a while.
All right. Okay.
So Nightwing is definitely Kryptonian. Flamebird, which who knows why that even is a word, is the female version. Sorry, I just jumped on the side there.
No,
I
that's
do
fine.
like I do like that they brought the original villain of Batman Beyond, which is
Yeah,
Blight,
Blight.
right?
That's how the
So
issue ends, and
yeah, yeah. So I like that. If you are a fan of this character in this series, I'm having a love-hate relationship with both uh, 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 Batman Beyond and Spider-Man 2099. I feel like they're kind of the same character in different universes in their own ways,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Pretty much the same time frame. Everything is sway and all these other, different future versions of all the people that we know. Um, I always felt, and there's even, those people who do Death Battle. You ever watch that?
Yeah.
Okay, they did a who wins in a death battle between Batman Beyond
And
and
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
20.
2000. You want to see it. You want to know who wins. And because who can do that better. And I like how they worked that. I like the animation of it too. So if you're looking for something
I
else to jump into,
okay. Without having watched it,
yeah, who do
um,
you say?
I think it depends on how old Terry McGinnis is and how much knowledge he's absorbed from Bruce.
Let's say current incarnation as best as you remember
I
for both of them.
I gotta go with Spider-Man 2099
Okay,
just because he has innate abilities. I don't know that.
I agree with that. The
Uh,
question is he sneaky? You know what I mean? Can he
okay.
fight dirty? Because Terry McGinnis can fight dirty,
Right. True.
right?
Yeah.
Terry McGinnis grew up fighting dirty even before he became Batman, right?
Yeah.
And as Batman, he has fought powered people before. So who's the smartest one in that exchange is the first question. And I don't mean smart like I could build a scientific device, but who's the smartest one sort of in the day-to-day smartness? Who's street smarter?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of getting at. I was, it depends on how long Terry's been in the game. If it's current incarnation, I don't think he's got
Mm-hmm.
enough
Well,
of
he's got the suit gives him strength
right.
and flight and distance powers. Does does Spider-Man 2099, does he have a spider sense?
I thought he did. Pretty sure he does.
There we go. Let us type away.
Yeah, we gotta look this one up. To be honest with you, I haven't read a Spider-Man 2099 comic book since
So don't
the.
worry, it's coming. It's getting ready to come back like this year. You'll
Yeah,
see.
that I was gonna bring that up. It's so Michael O'Hara.
Hmm.
Let's look at powers.
Because I believe when he first came out, he didn't. That may have changed though.
I'm not entirely sure. And his appearances in the Spider Verse have been pretty.
Sporadic.
Yeah,
Whatnot.
they haven't been like.
I do know that Spider-Man 2099 has organic webbing
Yes,
and he has talons and teeth.
and I feel like
But yeah, from what I read in this CBR thing back in when, let's see, CBR back in September 1st, 2019, five things Spider-Man 2099 can do that 616 Spider-Man can't, and vice versa.
okay,
So it looks like only Peter Parker in this conversation has an actual spider sense. And without a spider sense, that means Terry McGinnis, who's sneakier and can turn invisible, right? And
right,
that sort of thing, in theory, doesn't have to be stronger or faster.
that's fair.
I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm just arguing it like we're playing one of those games where like here's why my hero's the best.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just picking the other guy. So my thought is Batman is a street fighter. He's dirtier. He's sneakier. He's used to fighting people with powers,
right,
and he can match them. He could probably match its strength with the suit and some not quite the same speed, but good enough. He can actually fly, not glide, and he has stealth, and he has bombs. Pumpkin bombs, for lack of a better word, but bat bombs that he can shoot from distance, unlimited batarangs, right?
right, okay,
And can sneak up behind him and just stab him in the back of the skull with a batarang, easy,
all right,
right? So that being, I'm not saying that Spider-Man, the other Spider-Man, isn't, won't be a good fighter, and he does have natural abilities, but he's never really shown in the comics where he has great skill that exists alongside those abilities.
okay,
Like Spider-Man, the original Peter Parker, has been around 10 years at least, right? In the comics, maybe 20. In that time, he has basically upped his game to spider food. You know what I mean? There's even a book where I saw where he worked with Shang-Chi to create his own kind of kung fu based on his skills. So spider fu is a thing.
all right,
And with that kind of speed and agility, it makes sense that Spider-Man could hit you in 500 spots at one time. You know what I mean?
right, right.
Before you can even move, and can duck all your blows. All of that. So, and we don't really know how fast, because Spider-Man 2099 is actually a very different thing. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
Spider-Man theme, but it's not. It's not the Miles Morales. It's not the usual 616 Spider-Man.
no, no. It's interesting.
So yeah, I choose Batman.
Okay.
Not because it's DC now. It's just that I think Batman is smarter, and Batman Beyond is smarter than young heroes. I think.
All right, that works.
Like I could Nightwing take out Spider-Man 2099.
If it's Dick Grayson, yeah.
So if it's Dick Grayson with even less powers and less devices, and you give that to Dick Grayson,
I
and
think
then you put the augmented suit and the dirty fighting, I'm thinking you got to give it to Batman Beyond. But
I don't know. I feel like Terry's more irrational than Dick would be.
more irrational or rational?
More irrational.
Yes, that's going to work in his favor.
Okay. All right.
He's going to fight dirty, right? Terry McGinnis will kick you in the balls. Nightwing would never do that. Right? That's just not superhero etiquette, right?
But he's learned everything he possibly can from Bruce.
That's true. but he's a cleaner, nicer version, right? Even when he was Batman, he didn't put fear into anybody's heart. He
Uh,
actually smiled when he kicked butt.
all right. So those are the 6 books we had for this week.
Mm-hmm.
You've noticed, as I'm sure our watchers might and listeners might notice, only one Marvel book, and that Marvel book came from you. I didn't throw any Marvel books into the mix this week.
Well, let's see if you can sustain that.
Um, well, the reason being, it's not that I didn't buy Marauders this week
Mm-hmm.
and read through it. I'm just not that impressed with what they're doing with this new X world that Hickman's created.
Um, Outside of House of X and Powers of X, I have to agree.
Yeah, it
House
got
of X and Powers of X is a book you have to own because that's so rereadable and there's so much there. But is the X-Men sort of okay, here's the new status quo because the rules have changed, here's the new rules, but everyone's still a dumbass and this is what they do.
well. That's the thing. Like, there's not a whole lot really different. Like, Marauders is interesting in the premise, and it's
Mm.
you know Kitty leading a team, and they're
Kate, thank you.
oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. So, as Emma points out, yeah, she wants to be
Mm-hmm.
called Kate now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it just didn't grab me, and it wasn't. I don't know. I
I'm in agreement with you. I read through it and I was like, this is not a bad book, but it's not something I want to recommend.
I feel like it may be me. I put too like I had too high expectations for these new books, and that's why they're falling flat. Maybe they are better than what I'm giving them credit for, but I just
No, I agree with you. They don't hold a candle to House of X and Powers of X was so monumental, so mind breaking in the possibilities and all of that. That it raised the standard of X-Men for you. It did for me, right? And for whatever the 3 months or whatever this was going on, it changed my view of what X-Men could be,
yeah,
right?
12
But but
weeks,
but a lot of these characters, because the X-Men is what 500 different mutants.
something like that.
So,
Yeah,
and if you look at it, Cyclops was barely in any of those books, right? Certainly what he was about didn't show up in those books, right?
yeah.
So we had to have a whole Cyclops issue. Well, what was Kate Shadowcat Kitty Pryde doing during those books? Does she even show up? I don't know, right? So we have all these characters that are not operating at that level of managing all mutants in the cosmos or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Where are they now? I think they need to do what Black Panther did and go out and get their own planet.
Well, I guess Mars has been seeded with the Krakoa, so I mean that's
There we go. It's just a
yeah,
matter of time.
right.
Uh, but so there's but two things here. One is, we got to have an ABX now, another one.
Well, all right. So, have you read the recent headlines about they're going to do a Fantastic Four and X-Men crossover?
About Franklin, basically.
Yes. So
Yes, I read
I think that's going to be the new sort of Avengers versus X-Men, but it's going to be Fantastic Four and X-Men. And that
Fantastic Four are great, but they can't. The X-Men got too many telepaths, man.
well,
Nobody.
they'll probably bring in Avengers. I mean, it's not just going to be the Fantastic Four, right?
So is it going to be something like our seasonal thing? Like, what are we going to have? The big event as another ABX for this summer? Is it going
No,
to be
well,
that big?
this is supposed to start in February, so it's gonna be a small crossover. But I think it'll probably finally explain why the hell Xavier looks like the Maker, right?
Uh, or
Hopefully, anyway, fingers
maybe
crossed.
maybe it doesn't. Uh, maybe Xavier is just evil.
I
Come
don't.
on, look, we can go into all these books, and I can show you how evil he's been. How many, even in the last whack X-Men movie, you see he's a manipulator, dude. Right? He manipulates everybody. I even read a book where someone said he doesn't have time to read books, so he reads the minds of the people that write them. Right? I'm like, oh, why are you all up in my brain? It's not your place. You know what I'm saying? He will. And think about this: his agenda for mutant kind. What is he not willing to do? Remember, in order to woo Magneto, you know how the level of evil you got to be operating for Magneto to say, "Okay, I'm down with you." You got to be insidious.
Magneto's not evil. He just looks at the world from a different perspective.
Oh, dude, you drinking the Kool-Aid on me here. Magneto will murder. And will murder again. He ain't even worried about it. He already knows he will. You know and I know. Yep. Oh, but he's misunderstood. Are you really going to put that on me? Magneto is a straight up murderer, right? He will murder again, even though they have the new law of kill no humans.
Right.
How much you want to bet? Who's going to be the first one to break it? And you can't put Magneto in jail. You can't put him in mutant jail. You can't.
Because he already knows. He's part of the plan.
He's part of the plan. He's a fundamental part. In his absence, you have no one to counter Xavier.
I feel like they've already killed humans, though. Didn't they kill a bunch when they took the master mold that was orbiting the sun?
But yeah, but it was after that.
Oh,
that the episodes that kill no humans. But maybe in times of war, it's okay. Right? Because in the Bible it says thou shalt not kill, but it doesn't tell you what to do in war.
Maybe if they're cyborgs, they're not really humans. So they're okay to kill. Because they've turned themselves into something else, right?
Oh, you're right. They are cyborgs. And they are trying to save the human race. Okay. Cyborgs, not quite human, but if you cut them, do they not bleed?
That's a Beast line. Which, speaking of which, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Beast.
Right, and so there's got to be another stupid book that Beast is part of.
Yeah.
Right, and that's my thing is these lesser X-Men, these not the world-breaking X-Men, but because Cyclops is sort of depowered. Remember, Cyclops is a great field leader, but you can't have him leading all of X-Men. He doesn't think big enough.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
All the people that think that big were in House of X and Powers of X. They even brought Forge in, who used the technology conversation. I think Emma Frost is a very big player in that conversation, right? Certainly a large thinker. And House of X and Powers of X played in that space. Everybody else was a guest star and served at my will, right? Everybody, Gold Balls, everybody. Everybody else was there.
Bendis character, by the way.
Yes, who, by the way, now is one of a staple of X-Men everywhere, keeping X-Men alive even after death. Gold Balls, man. Bendis is everywhere.
Yeah.
Who right now in the last 5 years is doing it better than Bendis? I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly nobody's been able to hit both universes so hard.
Yes.
Both the big two, you know.
Who created Miles Morales? Was that Bendis?
Yeah.
See, damn it. And Miles Morales is down forever, right? Bendis is killing it, man.
Yeah.
He's not the best. I'm not trying to say he's the best, but he makes me love my DC, right? Yeah, he is able to come in and change his frequency to DC frequency and make me love it.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of that Tom King, the guy who's doing Batman. I'm not a fan. Not that it's the one who made Batman and Catwoman break up and she left him at the altar and all of that stuff.
Is it King or Kring?
Kring. It might be Kring.
Okay.
But didn't he do Mr. Miracle?
I think so, yes.
And Mr. Miracle, while it was weak, then I'm thinking of the wrong. It's not Tom Kring. Kring is a screenwriter and he did Heroes. So I'm thinking it's King, King.
Yeah, it is King. All right, okay. You can see why I confused the two, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think Tom King, I like what he thinks he's trying to do, but I'm not. But he so he wrote Mr. Miracle. It was one of the greatest books of that year, right? Mm-hmm. Highly acclaimed. He's co-writing the New Gods movie with Ava DuVernay.
No.
She brought him in. Okay. Now here's a funny parallel. You have the Eternals for Marvel getting ready to get made, and you have the New Gods for DC getting ready to get married. You see where we're going here? Right? Right? Same, it's just like uh, uh was Darkseid a knockoff of Thanos or Thanos a knockoff of Darkseid? Or were they really that separate?
Um, weren't they okay? If I'm not mistaken, they were both created by Kirby, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Thanos was, I mean, I
I
think
don't think
Darkseid was first.
I don't. Well, I don't know that one is a knockoff of the other. It's just this is Kirby saying this is my character, and I'm gonna put him in both universes.
Oh, so they are okay. Because when you think about it, you have Darkseid going after the anti-life equation, and you have Thanos courting death.
Right.
All right, this is kind of they're just like the same dudes.
That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah,
because you have the same creator for both,
mhm.
they're just a separate incarnation of the same character.
I like it. What was that one universe, amalgam universe, where they were merged into one being called Thanoside?
Was that Amalgam Comics?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. On that note, Russ, we've been streaming for a little over an hour, I think.
Oh yeah, we don't want to overdo it.
No, I've got to call it because we got Beer coming up in an hour from here. So I got
All
another
right.
podcast that I've got to do. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
I got to kick you off until next week.
Well, next week it is. See you then.
Hopefully, I'll have some Marvel books that I can actually bring on and be excited about.
Yeah, it's your company. I hope they don't let you down.
All right, until next week, Corner Comics
All
is
right.
out.
Peace.